What is up, guys and gals? It's Monster Chappie. We're here today for some more Madden 25 Gen 4 action. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about defense, and creating a defensive scheme in Madden 25 on Gen 4. The first thing I would say is, are you the type of person that plays with a bunch of teams, or are you the type of person that just plays with one team? Now, if you're the type of person that plays with a bunch of teams, I really wouldn't even mess with your depth chart whenever you're trying to create a defensive scheme, whenever you're putting the scheme together. Now, after the fact, yes, you're going to want to get your guys in the best position to be successful, but whenever you're building the scheme, honestly, your best bet's just going to be able to build it with the default roster, with slow linemen or fast or whatever that team already has. That way, it'll transition over to other teams a little bit better. Now, if you're the type of person that uses one team, definitely look at their roster, see what's going to benefit them, see what's going to help them out best. For instance, if I'm using the Panthers as we have here, your best bet's going to probably be try to have a few more linebackers on the field. So versus running a dime where their secondary isn't that good, and their linebackers are actually phenomenal. You got to kind of take that into account. Do you want defensive ends at D tackle? Do you want linebackers at D end? Do you want to keep them where they are? Whatever you're going to do defensively is all going to build around your team. So that's going to be the first and most important thing. So if you're using a team like the Niners, who pretty much have everything, really they can run anything. So you're good to go. Other teams, you're going to be better off running certain formations. Now, once you have your scheme, basically the best thing to do is try to make the team fit the scheme at that point, because you already have your scheme if you're having success with it and if it works for you. You may want to take whatever team's roster you're working with and try to manipulate it best to fit your scheme. So, if you need fast defensive ends, you're going to want to put Smith at D tackle and maybe put Alden Smith and Brooks, or maybe Alden Smith and this man here, Mr. Corey whatever. I ain't even going to try his last name. I'm going to get hate in the comments. Lemon Noir. But anyway, you may want to put them at D ends if the fast defensive ends is crucial for your team. If you need a fast dude at the second defensive back spot, cornerback spot, maybe Culliver's going to go there. Or maybe you need to get a dude that can tackle at safety, or a faster free safety and a tackler at strong safety. Whatever it is, try to manipulate that team the best. So once you're building your scheme, figure out which are the most important positions, because for some schemes, your second defensive tackle really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he is. It could be this guy here, or you may need somebody that's actually pretty good to play that spot. Another scheme, your middle linebacker, it doesn't really matter who he is. As long as he's got a little bit of speed and he could tackle a little bit, he'll be fine. So maybe you don't need Luke there. You can put, somebody like a Jordan Sen there, who's not as good, but he's 83 speed and he can make a tackle when he needs to, just because the outside linebacker spot is so much more crucial for your scheme. So it really just depends on your scheme to where you're going to put the dudes, and kind of rank the order of importance. So if your outside linebacker is the most important spot, you need that at the top. If your middle linebacker is not important at all, kind of put that at the lower spot, and fill your depth chart in that order. You don't want to just fill it as is. You want to fill it according to your scheme and how you play your defense, or whatever the case may be, with whatever team you're using. And that's going to be my recommendations depth chart wise. Now, as far as setting the depth charts up, specifically, I would say do that after you kind of have your scheme either way, because that way you'll just know right away that's going to work. And also, once you reset the depth chart and you get everything good to go as far as how you want it set up, you're going to know right away that you got the best personnel in, and that it's going to work with them because they're better than the dude you already had in there. Now, one thing that I want to put a little asterisk on that is that sometimes if you move a certain linebacker out, say for instance it's a 75 speed linebacker, it's not often that this happens, but let's just, for the heck of it, talk about it really quickly here. So Williams is like 86 speed. So for instance, if you get a setup where Williams gets in and he gets in pretty consistently and he's 86 speed, and you try it with the next team and they have a 90 speed guy, it may not work because he's too fast. Or if you vice versa, you put a slower guy in versus Williams and you run the exact same setup, it may not work. Likewise, it could be the acceleration or the speed of a defensive lineman that makes a play work. A lot of times, if you have a slower lineman, it actually helps with some of the setups, and it helps the defense get in a little bit more often. So that is one thing to keep in mind whenever you're setting up your stuff, is that it could change just a little bit. It's not often, but once in a while it will affect your outcome of your defense and the consistency of your blitz by changing your personnel. So try to make sure that it is still consistent after the fact. Now, the next thing I have to say is, now that we've got our team figured out, we've got, basically the type of formation, we kind of know the defense we want to be in based on our personnel, then you got to kind of look at playbooks and figure out which playbooks has, the most that's going to benefit us. Are we going to run a 3-4? Are we going to run a 4-3? What about a 4-4, 4-6, bear, nickel strong, nickel normal, dime flat, quarter? What am I going to run defensively? Is it going to be a run commit defense? Is it going to be a pass commit every play? Figure that out. Figure out that formation. The best thing to do is look online. You don't want to just be going back into practice mode, looking at plays. You want to go online and look. I, gave out a link very early in the season for the playbooks, but the playbooks are the same for the most part on Gen 3 and Gen 4, so that'll give you a good idea. But, check it out online, see which playbook's going to match you and the scheme that you want to run with your team. Now that we have our playbook, we got to figure out the formations that we're going to run around. Again, we'll just use the Panthers here for an example, but I'm not going to be a huge fan of the dime for the Panthers or the quarter. Again, you could run the quarter, run commit. You could put linebackers in, and that would actually help because that would get you a sort of a 3-3 look. So you could do something like that if you wanted to. So also mess with those packages. So, if you need faster defensive ends for your package, you just run the LB pass rush or something like that. And all the formations have different things like that. So before you go messing with your, once you got your depth chart the way you want it, before you mess it up entirely trying to get one guy in one spot, maybe try to mess with these packages really quick and see if you can get that guy where you want him. Sometimes that's the key, because maybe if you run a 4-6 and you run a nickel and you run a dime, the way you want to have your depth chart set up is a lot different. But if you set up your depth chart in the right way and you complement it with the right packages, for instance, if your outside linebacker is the most important role to you, but in dime, the middle linebacker is the guy that's going to be there, maybe just put the ROLB package or the LOLB, because that's your best linebacker. So for that instance, at the end when you're trying to slow him down, maybe that's going to be the best route to go. So before you mess up your depth chart entirely for one play or for one formation, just keep that in mind, that you do have the packages available to you by, moving the right stick left to right. And each formation has different types of packages, so you kind of just have to look for yourself, see which one and if any are going to benefit you. Now, we've basically covered, our team, our playbook, basically our setup for depth charts and stuff like that. And again, the packages as well. You got to figure out what kind of scheme you want to run. Do you want to run a blitzing scheme, a coverage scheme? What do you want to do? Do you want to use the blitz to set up the coverage? Do you want to use the coverage to set up the blitz? You just going to play coverage, you don't care. You're going to blitz, you just don't care. Either way, whatever you want to do, you got to kind of have that in mind going into things. So whatever you want to do, make sure you got that. And sometimes it may change over the course of, you running a scheme. Maybe you realize I'm having more success with the coverage, or I'm having more success with the blitz. You lean towards that a little bit more. But either way, that's going to be a route to go and something to think about whenever you're putting together a scheme. So to wrap this video up, I'm going to actually show you guys my favorite blitz angle on Gen 4 here. And we'll just use the 4-3 under, will punch 3 seam just for an example here. Let's go ahead and, okay, that'll work. Okay, so this blitz angle that Williams is on here, that is my favorite blitz angle for Gen 4. I try to either get that blitz angle or replicate that or duplicate that blitz angle in pretty much all my setups. And the reason for that is that that blitz angle there, it really causes a lot of problems for the line. He'll loop around that defender or he'll loop around the offensive lineman and he won't get picked up, depending upon the setup that you use or the setup of your play that you use. And it can really cause a lot of problems for the defense. So, whenever you're first building a scheme, try to find something that's going to really get, a free defender or something like that right away. Is it a blitz angle? Is it a certain play? Is it a certain setup? Is it just a general thing? Like on Gen 3, it's pretty much just, spread the line, crash them out, blitzing, and doing that type of stuff. Pretty much worked for like the last 2 or 3 years on Madden, just really easily. Just, overload the outside and you're good to go. Pretty much 3 guys on the outside, and it's not going to get picked up unless they slap protect. A lot of things were like that. Just blitz 3 on the outside and you're in. If you want an A-gap and stuff like that, you had to be a little bit more creative. But for the most part, as far as edge pressure, when it was just overload, and that doesn't work quite as well on Gen 4, if at all. There is still blitzes that work of that nature, but generally speaking, you have to be a little bit more creative with your blitz angles and using the different blitz angles to be successful on Gen 4. But either way, if you're playing on Gen 3 or Gen 4, just find what's going to be that Krabby Patty to being able to put together a nice little blitz and create a scheme around that. Now, you want to build your scheme from the jump around the blitz. Not that you're going to necessarily be a blitzer in the long run, but it's very easy to create coverage versus how easy it is to create a blitz. You create a blitz, you're good to go, because all you have to do at that point is just start zoning guys or manning guys, and you have your max coverage already. You know what I'm saying? So we already got a max coverage set up. Max coverage is easy. It's just a matter of putting a few guys in the zone or man defense and user and a certain guy. Now, obviously, there is better guys to blitz in on a max coverage and things like that. But if you're going to build a scheme, I would say start it with a good blitz. Now, is it going to be A gap, B gap, or edge? That's entirely up to you. Are you the type of person who prefers consistency? Or are you the type of do you prefer speed? What is more important to you? Because different blitzes are going to give you different results. There are going to be blitzes that are going to get in instantly, but they only get in, maybe 25% of the time. And some people are comfortable with that, where others are more comfortable with the blitz that's going to get in 90, 95% of the time. And it's not as fast, but, it's going to be consistent. So, that we'll talk about in the next video. Going to go ahead and cut it off here. Went a little longer than I wanted to already, but there will be another part to this series, no doubt about it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this thus far and are looking forward to more. And until the next time, we gone!